take you back to the protest by Soweto residents who have been blocking roads in Soweto around areas like Protea South as they try to make their way to the mayor's office in Braamfontein. Joining us now is the spokesperson for the mayor, that's Mabine Seabe, who talks to us via the virtual platform. Mr. Seabe, thank you very much for your time. Let's start with I'm not sure whether to call it a demand, but it is certainly what the residents in Soweto are calling for, and that is to say, for just 1 week, can they have electricity in all areas of Soweto uninterrupted?
Well, thank you, and good morning to the viewers of Newzroom Afrika. I think it's important to state up front that the majority of Soweto, almost all of it, is supplied their electricity via Eskom, which is a national government entity. Therefore, we don't have control or management over what Eskom does in Soweto. Equally, some of the complaints relate to policing, and these matters need to be taken up with the South African Police Service. That is why this afternoon, when the memorandum is received, the Executive Mayor has called on Eskom as well as the SAPS to be present to receive that memorandum. And as the City of Johannesburg, we'll deal with the matters that relate to the competencies of local government.
Mr. Seabe, have you ever inquired as the city from Eskom as to why load reduction is implemented, it would seem, only in township areas, or if you want to be a little bit more expressive around this, predominantly in black areas?
That is a matter that would have to be interrogated with Eskom, but nonetheless, we are engaged in a conversation with Eskom about the possibility of taking over their supply areas, those being areas, large parts of Sandton and the majority of Soweto, so that the residents of these communities receive the best possible service from the local government authority. But we must also understand that these negotiations and deliberations are going to take time, and these changes will not happen overnight. That's why, as the City of Johannesburg, we are responsive to the demands of communities, and where matters do not relate to the functions of the City of Johannesburg, we take these up with different spheres of government. The Executive Mayor, Councillor Mpho Phalatse, has been very deliberate about involving other spheres of government in the work.
Let me interrupt you, sir.
Johannesburg does, because the profile of Johannesburg means that issues of Johannesburg aren't just of Johannesburg, they're of Gauteng and they're of the national government.
Mr. Seabe, I want to challenge you on what you have just said. You're saying you are a responsive government. You are the local authority for the residents of Johannesburg. That includes residents of Soweto and any other township that has suffered load reduction. You can't say that you are responsive when you have never inquired from Eskom as to why it is that load reduction is only implemented in predominantly townships.
But we must also look in terms of which areas are supplied by Eskom and which areas are supplied by the City of Johannesburg. The infrastructure of these areas is often aged, and that's also an outcome of many years of neglect of Eskom, and equally issues related to non-payment. In our engagements with Eskom, I mean, one of the main issues that they raise is that they cannot afford to service communities that do not pay. That's why, as the local authority in this particular demarcation, we're engaging in ongoing engagements with Eskom to ensure that as a City of Johannesburg, we're able to service clients within our demarcation, even if it's a difficult service to offer. But we're committed to ensure that residents across Johannesburg, regardless of where they stay, are able to be provided with sustainable and long-lasting energy.
So that's
and that was the basis
here, is it
of
not?
the energy endowment that we had to ensure that we're able to supply residents across the city with reliable, affordable electricity.
So that is the issue. You have just mentioned it, Mr. Seabe, although in passing, which is what spokespeople do. You are not going to raise these issues with Eskom of load reduction in black areas simply because you operate under the assumption that people who live there do not pay. So, fine. Some people may not necessarily pay, and those are the people that should be targeted. But what about the rest that say, we are paying, and yet we are subjected to constant load reduction?
Well, Butoli, as I've already stated, as the city of Johannesburg, we don't have management or control over what Eskom does. We can only consult with them. And part of those consultations is to ensure that as a city of Johannesburg, we're able to supply and deliver services to all communities so that it's not done in a piecemeal manner. So that when the residents of Soweto do have service delivery complaints and even compliments, there's one organization that they go to, which is the city of Johannesburg. It is why the mayor has engaged in continuous discussions with various levels of government to ensure that the city of Johannesburg is adequately serviced.
Very briefly for me, I'm out of time. The protection of substations from thieves. What is it that you are doing either to complement the work of Eskom, who I suppose would bear the responsibility of protecting their infrastructure?
Well, I mean, as the city of Johannesburg, of course, we have a mandate over the infrastructure of City Power's grid. We've therefore engaged with the SAPS, the Hawks State Security Agency, and at a local level, we are re-establishing an infrastructure protection unit that will be headed by JMPD. And at a security level, the Group Forensic and Investigation Service Chiefess is also rolling out an operation to ensure that critical infrastructure is protected. We've engaged with the police so that we're able to classify our infrastructure as essential infrastructure in terms of the Critical Infrastructure Act.
In less than a minute, are you able to tell us who exactly is going to receive the memorandum from the protesters?
As things stand, the executive mayor will be receiving that memorandum, and she'll be accompanied by various MMCs as well as representatives from Eskom and the SAPS.
Mabine Seabe speaks for the office of the mayor of Johannesburg, Dr. Mpho Phalatse.